Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to make a satin slip skirt with elastic waistband. First, let me tell you about the fabric. I am going to show you two kinds of fabrics here. They are both satin. This purple one is Duchess satin, but this other one, unlike the Duchess satin, has a bit of stretch to it. So when you're picking your satin fabric or your silk fabric for this skirt, ensure that the fabric has a bit of stretch. Here, if you pull it on the bias, that is an angle of 90 degrees, you see that it's a bit stretchy. For the Duchess satin, you see that it has zero stretch. And if I pull it on the bias, you also see that it has zero stretch. So if you want to get the best out of this skirt, using a Duchess satin or a satin that has zero stretch is not a good idea. Now to draft the pattern. I have drawn the baseline, which is the waistline. This is the hemline and this is the hem allowance. So depending on the length that you want, I want a length from the waist to the hem of 28 inches. And the hem allowance of 1 inch. Now, I'll measure from my waist to my hip. Mine is 8.5 inches and I'll draw a straight line. So from the waist to the hip is 8.5 inches. Now to the horizontal measurement. To get your waist measurement, you'll use your hip measurement divided by 4 minus 1.5 inches. You can decide to minus 2, 2.5 or less. So for me, my hip measurement is 42 divided by 4. I have 10.5 minus 1.5. That gives me 9 inches. So I will be measuring 9 inches on my waistline. Just to cross check, you have to ensure that by the time you multiply your answer by 4, it has to give you about your original waist measurement. My original waist measurement is 34 inches. So having 36 here is perfect. Also for this skirt, I will not be having a dart because cutting a skirt on the bias form already helps the skirt to take the shape of your body. So for the hip line, I am going to measure 10.5 inches horizontally. Mind you, for this skirt, I do not need a seam allowance, neither do I need an ease allowance. After joining the hip to the waistline, depending on how wide you want the hem to be, add some inches to your hip measurement and then mark that on the hemline. You can make yours 4, you can make yours 5. Then draw the line from the hip to the hemline. So, because it is just like an A-line skirt, I am going to measure 0.5 inch upward from the hemline on the side, and then I will connect it just this way. Now the initial line I drew is no longer valid. The next thing to do is to depress the waistline like we do for our skirts, right? So I am going to measure 0.75 inches downward from my waistline, which is the center front, and then I'll draw a curved line to the side of the skirt. Just to name this, I am going to cut this part on fold because this is going to be my center front and my center back. After doing all this, cut it. To the fabric, this is the selvage of the fabric and this is the width of the fabric. What I'm going to do is to bring both sides together, the length and the width. So it is going to form a 90-degree angle just like this. So this part where I wrote fold, has to be on the folded part of the fabric. That is why I'm turning it over this way. I'll cut 0.5 inch upward from the waistline. That is going to be the allowance for attaching the elastic. So to manage my fabric, I'll not be using the other edge of the fabric because in total I have about 3 meters of fabric here. But what I'm going to do is this. I'll measure what I have left. Measuring this gives me 31 inches. And downward as well, I have measured 31 inches. So that means this line is a straight line. So it is similar to the width of the fabric that I used to fold initially. I hope you understand. If you like, you can use a ruler to draw the straight line. So what I'm going to do now is to match the selvage of the fabric, the remaining part of the fabric, on the straight line that I just showed you now. Like a 90-degree angle, just like the one I cut earlier. And then I'll place the pattern that we already cut on it. Remember that I depressed the front waist by 0.75. Now, I'll increase the center back waistline by 0.75. I'll slant it to the side waist and then I'll cut all around just the same way I cut the other one. So the only difference between the front and the back pattern is the center back waistline. Now open both patterns and place them right side facing like this. So note, the one with the depressed waistline is the front pattern. I'm going to sew the side with a 0.5 inch seam allowance. I'll also hem the bottom part of the skirt and the waistline. I have done that. For the bottom, after hemming, I folded it upward 0.5. I'm going to sew it later. But if you do not have a serger, what you can do instead of hemming the bottom is to fold the skirt first 0.5 inch, sew it around, cut the excess allowance, and then fold it and sew it around again. For the waistline as well, if you do not have a serger, do not bother because this method is going to conceal the rough edge on the waistline of the skirt. Now I have my elastic band here. My waist is 34 inches, but I cut an elastic band of 30 inches. Sew the elastic band together, either by a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch. After doing that, get 4 equal points on your skirt and on your elastic. The next thing is to open up the elastic like this and then you put in the skirt. Remember, the skirt is already on the right side. So we are putting the skirt, the right side of the skirt, inside the elastic. Now match all the 4 points that you have marked on both the elastic and the skirt. This will help you to evenly distribute the elastic on the waist of the skirt. After doing that, what you're going to do is to sew either with a zigzag stitch or with a straight stitch. While sewing, you have to pull the elastic so that it can match up with the length of the waist of the skirt. I hope you understand. I'll do that all around and I'll also hem the bottom of the skirt. So looking at this, it has been done. Now what you're going to do to conceal the elastic is to go to the side seam of the skirt and then you fold the elastic inward just like this. Pin it and then you sew on the seam allowance like you're stitching in a ditch, right? Fold it this way, pin it and then sew on that seam. And after doing that, your skirt is ready. Here is the skirt. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please ask. See you later. Bye.